Well, hey, everybody, this is Mitch Ashley, and
I'm Alan Schimmel.
And you're listening to
Security Boulevard Chat. On the Boulevard.
On the Boulevard. Yeah, baby.
Not celluloid.
What's that?
Not Hollywood Boulevard and Celluloid Heroes.
I think of that every time we say this.
Me too. You know, one of my great memories, Mitch, I went to St. John's undergrad, St. John's University, and the Kinks played at what today is Lou Carnesecca Arena. Back then it was, I think, just Alumni Hall. And I volunteered to be a usher for the show, which means they gave me a free T-shirt. I made sure everyone was sitting in their seats. And then once the show started, I went down, sat on the first row there, right in between seats, and had, watching Ray Davies right on top of me. And that was a great concert.
That was awesome.
Hollywood
Been to so many
Boulevard,
great concerts. I
Heroes.
lived in the concert desert of Nebraska, which we didn't have that many good. We had concerts, but not like New York, nothing like that.
No, at St. John's, the biggest ones we had was that King's show. We had Meatloaf, and I think the Allman Brothers. The Allman Brothers were a great show there. This is back in the day when they were alive.
Yeah.
Well, Dwayne was gone already. But anyway, we regress, Mitch. We're here to talk about security and cyber and all that good stuff. What do you got?
I want to bring up a kind of a different topic than we've talked about before. Brian Krebs, who you all know, if you've been in security, you know who Brian Krebs is. I guess he was with the Washington Post originally, right?
Yeah, but he's been Krebs on security now for a long time.
That's right. He has Krebs on security. He had this interesting article about why your Wi-Fi router doubles as an Apple AirTag. Long way of saying, essentially there was, I think it was University of Maryland, was doing a study and found that our Apple devices, while they're roaming around networks, and we always have these features like, turn on Wi-Fi so it improves your cellular, your network performance. Well, some of it is about geolocation, also improving geolocation. But the point here was that all of our Apple devices, at least in that ecosystem, are collecting data about every access point that it sees as you're traversing through, going over to Costco, or you're driving down the highway, or you went to the mall or at the movie theater, whatever. Wherever you go, or you're traveling on the airplane somewhere, all of us are providing data back into the back end of Apple systems about Wi-Fi access points. Now, what exactly all data that they're capturing is not totally clear, but the University of Maryland did this study where they actually pulled publicly accessible data out of that information and could map sort of movement of people in Ukraine and in Gaza and places where there's a lot of, disruption happening. And you can just imagine, what else? Who else might want to use that information? Maybe people who are involved in those conflicts, or maybe cyber threats. So it's a combination of, we heard about geofencing when we went to the mall. It could tell you where you went to what stores. Now that's happening on a macro level. And it made me think, Apple's big on our security, securing our data. Is that a little bit too much information that's leaking, even though it's not specifically about us? I'm curious your thoughts on it.
Well, early on in the Ukrainian-Russian war, call it a conflict or whatever the Putin and those guys decide to call it, special operation, I know the Ukrainians were triangulating Russian soldiers using cell. And that would give away their position, and they could zero in their smart missiles and bombs to take them out. And as a result, a lot of Russian soldiers died, and I think the Russian army put sort of a stop on, soldiers using their phones. They're in these positions because it's a dead giveaway. I don't know if that's the same technology or that was cell phone towers.
I think it was cell phone towers.
Yeah. Cell phone towers will give you a decent location. When you're using Wi-Fi, they really can triangulate in on you, based on your WAPs and stuff like that. So obviously it's an information leak there. On the other hand, I'm not quite sure, and I'll go back to read the Krebs article. The Apple information, how is it being accessed by anyone? Right? I mean, Apple doesn't make that publicly available, I'm thinking.
There apparently is some public information, and they were talking about Apple and satellite-based broadband services like Starlink, that they could do some correlation and tell from that some of these implications about geolocated devices. Where
like, I'm wondering, can they grab a MAC address from your device and then follow where that MAC address is linking onto a WAP or a Starlink or what have you?
Yeah.
And so, okay, assume that MAC address is Mitchell's phone, and Mitchell's phone went from this wireless access point to that wireless access point, so we know where Mitchell's going here. Right?
You're spot on. And they're capturing the MAC address of all the access points that you're seeing.
Right.
So that's how they correlated back to the same access
point. And so, but are those MAC address points publicly? Obviously, they must be if this is what they're doing. And if they're doing it in the Ukraine and Gaza, I'm assuming they're probably doing it for FBI and criminal matters as well.
Mm-hmm.
It just, this is why you can't have nice things on the internet.
Get out your Nokia flip phone.
Yeah, or just two tin cans, send a letter or a postcard. Stop. Yeah. I don't know a way around it unless, because there are valid reasons to have that information out there.
It is, and I wonder, so apparently some of the information is available through an API. Both Google does this too, by the way, not to pick on Apple.
Oh, yeah.
But at least the article intimated there's not all the information is available through that API. So it's almost like, I just suspecting here, Apple made some of it available so that it's not all, we're keeping all that private, not letting you know what we have. Right. So maybe
I think some of it probably has legitimate business uses. Like, think about this. I don't know. This is a first world problem. Don't hate me for it. But one of the things that I really hate when I'm flying and I'm trying to stream video on an airline is that many of the airlines, when you log into their Viasat or however they're getting you online, you can't get like local programming, or if I want to watch a football game or a baseball game, and there are blackout restrictions, because it can't tell my exact location, it prevents me from like watching a particular game or something like that. So the way to get around that used to be, I'd log in via VPN while I'm online and make believe I'm in New York or Miami or LA or wherever I want to be that's going to allow me to watch the game that I want. And what I've noticed is the plane's Wi-Fi systems, it's not that they've gotten smarter, but they're detecting that I'm not, this is a VPN in Miami, it don't work. And I suspect how they're doing that is they're probably looking at where the MAC address of how I'm connecting is coming from, regardless of where my VPN says I'm logging in from. Right? So that might be a legitimate reason why you'd want to have that MAC address. Though it's not legitimate to me because I paid for the damn NFL subscription. I should be able to watch it anywhere I want.
I agree.
But, shout out to Pittsburgh getting the 2026 NFL draft, by the way, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay. And our quarterback, but okay. The Broncos. Well, if you connect a few more dots, so step back one more degree, if you will, you're using your VPN to watch Netflix or whatever. Let's say you travel to London or something, you want to watch your subscription from there. Well, they might be able to detect that you're using a VPN either on the phone or, while you're there, maybe looking at IP addresses or something, or the MAC address. But if you also step back and say, well, wait a minute, we've seen that MAC address in 25 places between Newark and landing and spending time in London. We know you were in London 5 seconds ago before you connected onto the VPN.
Yeah, and that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So I guess the question then, though, becomes, Mitchell, is that a legitimate use, right? Should they be entitled to do that, or is that a little too big brothery for me?
I know. Is there no privacy? Can I not, it's like having headlights on your cars that turn on. What's
from Machine Gun Joe, what's his name? Joe McCarthy. Have you no decency, Senator? But
let me say hello to my little friend.
Yeah, exactly. But
it's a different movie.
different movie, different guy. But I mean, I guess they have a right to know because you're not entitled to watch the NFL game in London. But I am entitled to watch it while I'm flying from Florida to California.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it thwarts me and it bums me out to no end. And I've done some things I'm not proud of, but because God, I'm not going to miss that game while I'm flying.
That you climbing up the pole to bypass the cable block.
Look, I'll never tell. You'll have to kill me first.
Not that I would know anything about that. No,
but I'm watching that game. Screw you. Anyway.
Okay. Well, I think we've got to beat this dead horse.
Yeah, no, but it's a legitimate reason. But you know what? Honestly, it could wind up costing you your life in a war zone.
It could. In the wrong hands, it could be used against people very easily, right?
Absolutely. And it'd be interesting. I'm not sure if we've seen it yet in court cases, but it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah. Now, you had a topic you wanted to bring up.
I did I?
You did. You told me you did. You wanted to talk about, was it the, no, it's not the CISO role that changed. We talked about it on
we talked about Textron Gang, about the changing role of the CISO, yeah.
Yeah, because of AI and all of that.
That was an AI. That was a Textron. And do check out Textron Gang on Textron TV. But no, I thought I had another clever thing going on in security, Mitch. Now I remember what it was. Is the window closing on AI startups, or is it just another cycle in the cyber world? You know, what we've seen, Mitch, in the last year, certainly, is VCs are falling over themselves, throwing what dollars they have into AI. And AI cybersecurity companies are no exception. They've garnered a lion's share of the VC money available out there. And especially because, look, if you're a new AI security company, you're probably raising a round, seed round kind of money. And that's where the money's going right now. No one wants to invest in some company that had an inflated round, in 2022 or 2021. And now, if you're not doing a down round, are you really getting your money's worth? They'd rather invest in something clean and new at a better valuation. But And so that fueled a ton of these cybersecurity AI or AI cybersecurity startups. But now the big boys are coming in, right? Cisco, Palo Alto partnering with IBM, using Watson and stuff for it. CrowdStrike, thinking of big public cyber companies, and they're all jumping AI. Now, this is not new. This is how cyber works, right? These big companies will not let once something starts going mainstream, they're not going to not feed it the trowel, right? And so they make their bets. Their bets are usually they don't develop their own solutions. They buy innovation.
Yep.
And so, a thing we learned, Mitch, when we were still secure, and I learned working with Brad Feld, who was money behind Still Secure, is if you're not in the top 3 in your space, get the hell out. Because when these big guys are going to buy, they're looking at top 3 usually, right? They want to buy leaders in that space. And so you got a lot of these AI cyber companies that, look, their markets are immature. They got off a little later maybe than the first mover. Whatever the reason, they're not in the top 3. And now the big boys are coming in. And once the big boys come in, you need a lot of resources to compete.
Exactly.
So what is an AI cyber company to do? Well, if they can't sell quick.
Let me throw this wrinkle at you, because we went through this cycle at Still Secure, right? With our products. One of them was an NAC product. And, suddenly Cisco grabs up somebody else, right? So that we're not going to sell our stuff to, sell out to Cisco.
Now you got to compete with Cisco.
Right. Got to compete with them.
And damn the torpedoes.
And pivot and say, who else in market is a potential buyer for the company?
Right.
So accelerate to today, using that phrase, accelerate to today and how fast things change in the AI space. That was something that happened over, probably months, 6 to 12 or 18 months that kind of an exact acquisition evolved. This could be like, hey, there's 3 companies out there, go buy one now. Right.
And 3 months later, if you're still standing after 3-4 months. See, but I don't think pivot in this case means pivot to another competitor. Right? Because if you're not in the top 3, that other competitor is not going to give you the valuation you want or your investors want. Exactly. I think in this case, pivot means find something else.
Maybe move downstream in the problem.
You can still use AI, right? Use that technology, but use it for something else than your original business plan. I think that's going to happen because there are a bunch of AI cyber startups that brought down some good money and now find themselves competing against Palo and IBM and Cisco and what have you. But here's the good news. The smart ones will pivot into something new and novel and create yet another wave of innovation. And Mitch, that's the way it is in cybersecurity. It has been for as long as you and I are in it, right? These big companies, they buy innovation, and the companies that get left over are kind of liquidated or pivot and re-innovate.
Or languish, sticking to their old model.
Or die, right? They languish until they're dead and someone shoots them. But it's just, again, how quick time is moving in this AI time crunch that, it's not quite 2 years since Gen AI kind of burst on the scene. November will be 2 years. It's a year and a half. And we're already seeing this cycle play itself out.
So step back for a moment. The IBM Palo Alto acquisition, not about Palo Alto. Partnership. Yeah, that's the right way to say it. There was an AI component we're going to partner on with IBM and use Watson for some of their technology, their LLMs. But there was also the kind of security monitoring system that Palo took on in exchange essentially for buying the business of IBM using Palo's products and things. But they kind of ingested an older, previously acquired SaaS application that IBM no longer used.
No, they bought QR Radar.
QR Radar, that's the name.
QR Radar. It's a SIM, but it was the SIM at the heart of IBM's security practice.
Yeah, that was just curious to me that they're obviously probably still going to use it, or maybe they're moving on to something else. I don't know. Maybe it was time to jettison it.
I think IBM wants to sell security. They don't want to do security. Right? And, QR Radars are great for managed security providers. It's a cornerstone. But you remember SIM from our, still secure days, Mitch.
Been around for 20 years.
You got $3 to $5 million and a couple of years to get it up and running. Then I got a SIM for you.
SIM one.
It hasn't gotten any better.
I heard the phrase, it's not single pane of glass, it's single glass of pain.
Right. But, look, in our day it was QR Radar, it was ArcSight. And there was the one that had the art. They had like googly eyes. Was there kind of out of Atlanta? They were a little lighter than the other two. But anyway, that's always been the case with SIM. And over the years, look, we've seen SOAR, SOAR, come out and kind of not leapfrog, but it's an alternative if you're not doing pure SIM. But when you look at IBM's, and IBM had a big security team, right? You remember too.
Oh, yeah.
They bought the ISS business back in the day, and that really helped them establish a security.
That was their creds. That was really their
X-Force. And X-Force is part of this deal too, right? X-Force goes over to Palo. But, that was the heart of that IBM. They did a bunch of acquisitions in the subsequent years, but that was the heart of the IBM security offering. I wonder, are they just going to sell Palo's security offering now, or what's left of the IBM security offering?
Well, it sounds like they're going to be pushing a lot of Palo products. So
yeah,
I don't know if it's in place of Sure Radar or if what it is. So this is a bit of a tangent. I have a question for you about this, because one of my thoughts around why sell this right now, and there's a complex deal, so there's lots of factors for doing that. But one potential reason is the Splunk acquisition of Splunk by Cisco, and being positioned as a security company, right? You and I know Splunk from an IT operations log aggregation management.
You know what? Splunk always sort of resisted being a security company, but it was the bulk of their business.
It is, and it is for others too. They're not the only SIM that are that way. And what I was wondering is, are we seeing a sunset on the days of SIM, and observability in the security world is the thing that's, I don't know if it's replacing it, but that's the thing that fills in the big gaps we've got.
I don't think SIMs ever die, and they don't fade away. They just take on observability instead. But look, the fact of the matter is the people who started ArcSight and sold it for a couple $2 billion to HP are the same people who started Sumo Logic.
Right.
And Sumo, much like ArcSight and the rest of the SIMs, never claimed to be a security only thing. They were very DevOpsy and all of that, and observability and next gen. But they were a SIM. It was the ArcSight people doing Sumo. And now, you've seen Sumo went public and is a successful company, but they've had some ups and downs. And they're going to try to reposition themselves as an observability solution. I think IBM made a conscious decision here that where do they play? They play in AI. They've put a ton of friggin' money into Watson. And the funny thing is IBM very well may have invented this whole AI thing with Watson, right? But real quickly, OpenAI DOSed them, right? Like what Microsoft did with DOS, OpenAI is done with ChatGPT to Watson. And so they've seen this script before. They know they're in a war to be an AI player because the stakes are that big. And so they got to make their bets.
I think, and this is shifting, and I'm talking about Microsoft, but you look at the announcements that they've made in the last couple of weeks, I think we're seeing Microsoft move from we're a cloud company to now we're an AI company. Right, I think that's the next generation.
And they put $10 billion of money into OpenAI to prove it. And look, we just discussed it today on the Textron Gang, right? They have now come out with an AI PC, and they're talking more about hardware. Bill Gates, well, he's not quite in his grave to roll over, but he's not doing cartwheels. Microsoft's become, maybe they always did want to be hardware. But, an AI PC, the Surface, co-pilots and everything Azure and DevOps. Yes, every company today's an AI. I'll do Mark Andreessen. AI's eating the world, right?
Yeah.
Every company today's an AI company, including Microsoft and including Google. Because last week we were at not Google Next, whatever Google's show was last week, where they announced everything AI into everything they're doing. IBM's going to do the same thing. They want to be a powerhouse there. They've got their cloud strategy. They're finally, you can almost tell what IBM Cloud is. They've got Red Hat in there. I think they just felt like they couldn't do justice to keeping security a best-in-class solution without partnering with a Palo or someone of that scale to keep their security products top of line. Otherwise, they could have given it to HCL.
Well, if you don't, I think every company is, every technology provider company, you don't have a solid AI story that you're either rolling out or developing, or, it's got kind of long range legs, then you're just you're an observability company, or just a monitoring, or just a security company. And I think the value, how you're going to be valued and viewed in the market, it's going to drop rapidly if you don't have a credible story.
I agree with you 100%. And I think they're all rushing to it. But let me ask you the definitive question here, Mitchell. Is an observability solution a security solution? Is an observability company a security company? Because I will tell you, if that's the case, a rose by any other name would still smell as sweet, right? And so yesterday's SIM is tomorrow's observability, but it's the same old,
which is a whole nother topic. I interviewed Austin Parker on his new book about learning open telemetry. And it was kind of interesting. We talked about the book and learning and why he wrote the book and all that kind of stuff. But the latter half of that conversation was all about, if you really step back and what open telemetry and observability is doing, it's collecting data to basically metrics, right, to correlate and make observations about. And his point was, he thinks observability is going to be a business tool, not just an IT tool. So think about measuring all this data we're getting from applications and customer experience and financial data, whatever it might be. You could create KPIs on any kind of information, or monitoring, if you will, around any kind of telemetry data. And the more we're overrun or kind of create all this data, he thinks that's where open telemetry and observability is going to. It's not an IT or a security tool. It's the next generation business tool. I thought it was pretty fancy.
It is. I mean, the whole open telemetry thing is that's like a business school, case study. Yeah. I mean, it rocks and rolls, and it underpins almost that whole industry now. This whole observability industry that we used to call, it's funny, it encompasses them, what we used to call APM, right? It's all observability now. So it's interesting times. I mean, it's funny, I look at the agenda that our editorial team comes up with every day for Tech Strong Gang, and it just blows my mind, the sheer volume of AI news across every single silo we cover. But that's the time frame we're in right now. And you can embrace it, or you can, roll over and die. I mean, what do you want me to tell you?
Change or be changed, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's how it is. Better to be pissed off? Well, I'm not even going to go there. Anyway, Mitch, this was a great Security Boulevard. Let's end it right there.
Okay. I think we should wrap things up, and, thank everybody for listening and watching. And especially folks who have been with us for over the years. We've been doing this for a while, from back on the Still Secure after all these years.
Absolutely. And you know what? Do check out Security Boulevard, because it probably publishes more security content than any other security site on the planet. Thanks to our Security Content Creators Network and all the great folks over at TechStrong. And so check that out. If you're cruising the Boulevard for cyber news, there's only one Boulevard to cruise.
The way to go.
And that's Security Boulevard.
That's where you want to be. It's, all the cool kids are there.
Yep. All right. And your celluloid heroes, just to bring it full circle.
All right. Before we get started on another tangent,
doesn't take much.
So this is Mitch Ashley and
Alan Schimmel.
And you've been listening to
the Security Boulevard Chat.
Yeah, baby. On the Boulevard.